They say silence is peaceful. But I've learned, it only feels that way when you choose it. The silence after I left you wasn't peaceful. It was the kind that echoes. The kind that hums through the hallways I used to run down. And lingers on the couch I once claimed as mine. I wonder if you still glance at the floor, expecting to trip over me. Or if you hesitate before shutting the door, waiting to hear my paws behind you. You used to say, you're always there, like a little cloud of love that follows me. Now I'm just air. But if air can whisper, then let me say this. This story is for you. The one who still looks for me in the quiet. The one who still feels me in the room. I remember everything, and I'm not truly gone, not from you. You didn't plan for me. I wasn't circled in red on any calendar. Not saved in your bookmarks under dream dog breeds. You weren't even looking that day. You were just passing by, heart heavy. Coffee cold, thoughts far from the idea of love with 4 legs. And me? I was behind glass. Small, curly, quieter than the others. Not because I wasn't excited. But because I was waiting for something I hadn't seen yet. Waiting for you. It was one of those odd moments that don't shout, they whisper. No dramatic music. No slow motion movie magic. Just your eyes meeting mine. And something in you paused. You stepped closer. I tilted my head, ears twitching, not because of your voice, but because of something softer. Something unspoken, like you were grieving something invisible. You crouched down and said, "Well, aren't you a little question mark?" I blinked slowly. You smiled faintly. It was done. You didn't say it then. But later I learned. You had just lost someone. Not a dog, but a person. Someone who used to make your apartment feel like a home. And now, it was just a place with walls. And I had never had a home. Until you signed the paper. Until you carried me out of that building in your jacket. Until we sat in your car. Engine running, heater humming. You looked over and whispered, "Okay, I guess it's just us now." That drive home? I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't bark. I curled up like I'd always known your scent. And you? You kept glancing over like you were afraid I'd disappear. The truth is, I think we saved each other. You thought you were rescuing me from a lonely shelter. But I was rescuing you from a lonelier silence. You gave me a name that felt like music. You bought a leash that matched your favorite scarf. You told people I was small but smarter than most humans. But what I remember most is that you spoke to me like I was whole. Not a thing, not a pet, a someone. That first week, you taught me how to sit. But I taught you how to be still. When you cried on the kitchen floor over that voicemail, I didn't fetch toys. I didn't move. I just sat next to you. Head pressed against your thigh. Ears still, heart open. You didn't need fixing. Just witnessing. And that's what we did for each other. Every day, every walk, every nap, every quiet evening when you whispered stories into my ears like I was a diary that breathed. We weren't perfect, but we were complete. In a world that rushes everything. We met slowly. And we stayed. They say dogs don't remember details. But I do. I remember the day I made you laugh so hard. You forgot you were sad. And I remember the day I sat beside you in silence, because words had failed you. And grief had arrived uninvited. Let me start with the first one. It was a rainy Tuesday. You had just finished folding laundry. A fresh pile of shirts and socks sitting neatly on the bed. I was watching from the hallway, ears perked, tail low, eyes plotting. And just like that, I pounced. I dove into the pile like it was a treasure chest. Flipping socks into the air. Burying my face in your favorite sweatshirt. Rolling like I was chasing invisible butterflies. You gasped. Not in anger, not in shock, but in that bewildered, helpless way humans do when the rules don't stand a chance against love. "Are you serious?" you said. Voice caught between frustration and laughter. I froze, half buried in cotton. Then wagged my tail once. Twice. And you laughed. You laughed like someone had cracked a window in a room that hadn't been aired out in months. You collapsed onto the floor beside me. Buried your face in the very sweatshirt I just claimed. And whispered, "Fine, you win, but you're folding the next batch." From that day forward, laundry became a game. You'd toss socks in the air just to see me jump. I'd steal one and hide it in your shoe, your cue to chase me around the apartment. Both of us out of breath, out of routine, out of whatever sadness we were supposed to carry. But not every day was light. There was that evening, that quiet, horrible evening. You came home later than usual. No smile, no greeting. Your shoulders were down in a way I hadn't seen before. You dropped your keys on the counter. But they didn't jingle, they hit the wood like grief made solid. You sank into the couch. And I knew. I climbed up beside you. Slow, no tricks, no tail wagging. I pressed my body to yours. And I waited. For minutes. Then hours. At one point, you whispered, "She's gone. Your mom." You had been waiting for the call all week. I didn't understand death the way humans do. But I understood final. I understood what it means when your heartbeat changes rhythm. You clutched my fur like I was the only thread still connecting you to something real. And I didn't move, didn't lick, didn't tilt my head. I just stayed. That night, we didn't sleep in the bed. We curled up on the couch, me wrapped around your ribs like armor. You breathing through my ears like you were trying to inhale hope. In the weeks after, you changed. A little quieter, a little more distant in the mornings. But you never stopped talking to me. You told me stories about her. And I listened. I learned that you used to braid her hair. That she called you, honeybee. That she laughed like wind chimes. And cried without sound, just like you. I became the keeper of those memories. The silent archive of a life she had shaped. And somehow, through every walk, every morning coffee where I rested my chin on your knee, every Sunday when we stayed in and watched the light shift across the floor, you healed. Not all at once, but enough. Enough to start humming again while you cooked. Enough to buy me a ridiculous bow tie and introduce me to your friends as the only man who's never let me down. And enough to laugh again, truly laugh, when I chased a squirrel straight into the neighbor's sprinkler system and returned looking like a drowned mop with legs. You didn't need a perfect dog. You needed a witness. Someone to be there for the small moments. The hard ones. The weird ones. And I was. Because family isn't about blood. It's about presence. Love doesn't always announce itself with grand gestures. Sometimes, it's a paw tapping your ankle at 6:45 a.m. Sometimes, it's the way your shoes squeak when you reach for the leash. Sometimes, love is routine. And we had ours. You'd wake up to the sound of me yawning first, long. Dramatic, like I'd just returned from battle. Then you'd hear the soft jingle of my collar as I jumped off the bed and padded into the kitchen. Always 2 steps ahead of your tired feet. You never needed an alarm clock. You had me. And somehow, I always knew if it was a weekday or weekend. Weekdays meant business. Quick walk. A focused you. Me trotting beside you with purpose. Tail in sync with your stride. Weekends? That was different. Pajamas stayed on longer. Coffee came first. And I got to sit by your side on the balcony. Watching the world wake up as you whispered secrets into your mug. You'd always share the last bite of toast. Always. If you were running late, I'd stare at the toaster until it popped, just in case. Do you remember how I waited at the bathroom door? Not because I was needy. Because that's what we did. We were together, even in the quietest, silliest, most mundane moments. Then one day, the leash stayed on the hook. The balcony stayed empty. The toast was eaten whole. You still moved through the motions. But slower, heavier. And I was gone. Not entirely. You still glance at the floor before stepping backward. You still whisper, "Good morning," like someone might answer. You still leave a corner of the bed untouched. And sometimes, when no one's looking, you hold my old collar in your palm. You don't cry every time. But you always breathe a little deeper. Because routine isn't just habit. It's memory. And I live in yours. I saw it in your eyes before you said a word. You were holding my food bowl like it weighed more than usual. You smiled, but only with your mouth. And when you sat beside me on the floor, I knew. You touched my fur the way someone memorizes a goodbye. Slow, gentle, almost afraid it might be the last time. The vet spoke softly, but I wasn't listening to her. I was listening to you. To the way your heart beat faster when I leaned into your chest. To the way you whispered, "Thank you," over and over, like I had given you something more than just time. And I had. I gave you presence. I gave you loyalty. I gave you every ounce of love I had in this small body. And when the moment came, and the light grew soft, I wasn't scared. Because I wasn't alone. I felt your hand, heard your voice, smelled that mix of coffee and home and everything safe. You stayed. And I left, gently. Like a leaf on water. I don't know if this place has a name. It's not heaven like people describe, with harps and clouds. It's quieter, gentler. It feels like waiting at the door on a Sunday morning. Knowing you're coming back. Here, there's no pain, no ticking clocks. Just memories that float like light through leaves. I chase butterflies made of laughter. Sleep under skies woven from the stories you used to tell me. And when I miss you, which I do, I lie on a patch of sun that smells like your old sweatshirt. Sometimes, I dream of our walks. Sometimes, I feel your hand brushing the top of my head. And maybe it's not a dream. Maybe when your thoughts drift. When you smile for no reason. When you pause by the door without knowing why. That's me. Still here. Still loving you from just one room away. If you're still grieving, so am I. But grief, I've learned, is just love that has nowhere to go. And maybe that's why I still linger. In the quiet. In the morning light that spills across your empty floor. In the whisper of wind that lifts your scarf when you walk alone. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to move on. Just move forward, with me curled quietly in your memories. Let yourself miss me. Talk to me in your head. Smile when you catch a glimpse of something that reminds you of our time. Because love like ours doesn't end. It just changes rooms. And when your journey is done, when the world finally feels light again, I'll be there, waiting, not with a bark, not with a jump, just that same quiet loyalty I always had. Tail still, heart full, eyes soft, like I never left at all. So until then, keep walking, keep laughing, keep living, and know this, you were my forever, and I'll be waiting, like always, by the door.